Well, good morning. Welcome to the fall 2025 semester. Thank you all for being here this morning for the State of the University Address. Before we get started, I'd like to recognize a number of special guests who are with us this morning. Our Mayor President, Monique. Representative Troy Hebert. Senator Brockmeyer. And representing the University of Louisiana system, the chairman of our Board of Supervisors, Mr. Mark Romero. I'd also like to ask a few groups of guests this morning to stand. Our foundation board, our alumni board, University Council, and our Council of Deans. Thank you all very much for being here this morning. You know, in preparation for today, we sent an email out and I invited faculty and staff to share their questions and their comments with us. I wanted to hear what was on your minds, the issues that matter most to you, the opportunities you see for our future, and you responded. You responded with honesty, thoughtfulness, and a clear sense of commitment to this university and this university's mission. In total, you submitted 70 questions and comments. And when we reviewed and grouped these submissions, several key themes emerged. Some rose to the top in frequency, but all reflect an important part of the story that we'll tell today. Nearly 40% of all submissions centered on compensation and pay equity. And that's appropriate. It's appropriate. Salaries, cost of living adjustments, the challenge of retaining talented colleagues in a competitive market, those are serious priorities and serious challenges that we face. Other major themes included retention and morale, with questions about workload, career advancement, building trust across the university, budget transparency and stability with calls for clearer communication about our financial outlook, spending priorities, and decision-making, the leadership changes and direction as we navigate a moment of significant transition in our university's history, fiscal stability and process efficiency, ensuring we use our resources wisely and streamline how we work, academic freedom, and the university's commitment to ensuring that all students have a pathway to success, facilities, infrastructure, and technology, from addressing building needs and housing shortages to ensuring our technology keeps pace with our teaching and our research goals. And then a collection of others that referred to things like student success, research growth, governance, and campus culture. It's a lot of concerns and a lot of questions that you sent our way. But what unites these concerns is our shared desire to strengthen this university, to ensure our students thrive, our faculty and staff feel valued and supported, and our institution remains strong for decades to come. Today's address comes at a unique moment for our university. We're in the midst of a presidential transition. For the first time in 17 years, and only the 6th time in the entire history of our university. The leadership of Dr. Joseph Savoie has been transformative. Under his tenure, our university has grown in enrollment, in research stature, and in its role as an economic and cultural anchor for our region. We've advanced to Carnegie One status, expanded our campus footprint, and invested in facilities and programs that will serve generations to come. But beyond the metrics, Dr. Savoie has led with tireless vision, with steadiness, with humor, and with a genuine love for this university and the people who make it what it is. Joe Savoie didn't just lead the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. He shaped it, he strengthened it, and he made us all believe in its power and its purpose. A few years ago, when we achieved R1 status, Dr. Savoie compared our university to a great vessel, sailing into a sea of possibilities. And that image stuck with me, and it's just as relevant today as it was then. The wind is still at our backs, our compass is still true, but in this time of transition, we must be thoughtful about our course, making sure we're steering carefully and safely toward the destination that we all share. As we prepare for our next chapter, we're guided by the principles in our strategic plan: fostering student success, promoting research and innovation, strengthening community engagement, enhancing our reputation, and ensuring operational excellence. This is not just our plan. This is your plan. In developing that plan a few years ago, we listened. We listened a lot. You told us that we must get a better handle on budget and fiscal matters and on process efficiency. You told us what needs to get done, and we listened. Those priorities are now central to our work moving forward. Most of your questions in this transition time connect directly to those principles you identified a few years ago, and they'll continue to guide our decisions going forward. Your questions shape today's agenda. They reflect not only the challenges before us, but also the determination, the creativity, and the resilience of this university community. As we navigate this change, we do so from a position of strength, thanks in large part to the shared commitment of everyone in this room. Fiscal stability and process efficiency will now be central to our administrative work as we move forward. So this morning, that's where I'd like to begin. And we're going to take a little bit different approach than we've probably taken in the past to talking about these things. One of the things that I want to do this morning is take a little bit of time to talk about, to demystify, and to shed some light on some misconceptions about finances at our institution, at any institution. And I want to talk about those in an honest way with you, up front. My goal is to give you a global kind of understanding of where our money comes from, where we put our expenditures, how money moves on campus. You're going to feel like you're in a math lecture, and it's going to make me feel really, really good about what I'm doing. But my hope is that we all leave here with common understanding of the challenges that lie before us. Only when we understand, truly understand, the problem can we work together on solutions. So let me begin by just talking briefly about this. Let me talk about our revenues. Many of you have seen similar slides to this, and you basically know where these revenues come from. Roughly 30% of our revenues come from tuition and fees. But a large portion of our revenues, if you look at that pie chart, federal grants, state grants, and non-government grants account for another roughly 30% of what we're doing. It's not unusual for an R1 institution that those two are going to be similar. In fact, it kind of tells you that that R1 designation is appropriate at our university. You might look over to the left and see state appropriations at 19.1. That's similar to something that you're seeing at every university in the country. What you don't see in that slide is capital outlay, and I want to make a statement about that. This is an operational budget. These are our operational funds that come directly from the state. There is another pot of money that goes toward renovations and construction on our campus. Our Acadiana delegation brings that bucket of money home for us, and we are eternally grateful. We are eternally grateful for the tens of millions of dollars that they have brought to our university and to our community because of their belief in you and the mission of this institution. So thank you again, Troy, Brock, for everything that you do with helping us in pushing our mission forward. The revenues look the way they're supposed to look. If you look at any other R1 institution around the country, you're going to see a pie chart that looks like that. Where do we spend our money? If you look over on the right-hand side, you'll see that 59%, a huge chunk of our expenditures are in salaries. So every time we talk about budget pressures on campus, you should probably expect that we're going to talk about hiring situations and hiring strategies. It's just a natural thing to consider based on the fact that we have 60% of our expenditures there. But one of the other things I want to point out in here, if you add travel and you add other charges, including scholarships, other charges including scholarships are direct expenditures for students. If you add all of those things together, 75% of our expenditures are directly on people. That says a lot about our institution. But it also tells you that when we have fiscal challenges, it's going to touch people on a very human level. 75% of our expenditures are there. So we have to be really cognizant when we're choosing strategies for how to address fiscal matters. It's also interesting to look at our expenditures by area rather than by function. If you notice on the right-hand side, actually, to be honest with you, no one's looking at me right now. Everybody's eyes are right on this slide. So I'll stop. I'll let you look at the slide. Go ahead and study it. I know you want to. I'm going to tell you a little story about Edwin Lidoff. Edwin is, by the way, our new Vice President for Finance and Administration. On Edwin's first day on the job, I went looking for him to welcome him to campus, and I couldn't find him. Found out later that he was walking campus and doing a tour. But what's interesting about that tour is that Edwin got to campus and he called the SGA president. And he said, "Take me on a tour. Tell me what it's like to be a student on this campus." And I like that. On his second day, he jumped in a car and he headed to the New Iberia Research Center because he wanted to know what it's like to be a research faculty member on this campus. He understood our mission when he arrived on this campus. We are so grateful to have a cabinet, an entire cabinet, that truly understands that mission. And that mission is what's going to drive us into decision making that we're going to be making with regard to these decisions in the near future. Over on the right-hand side of this pie chart, if you look at instruction, research, academic support, scholarships and fellowships, and student services, it represents the vast majority of our expenditures, and it's also our primary mission. Our expenditures are in the right place. We're allocating the right stuff. Our revenues are coming from places where they should come. So what's the challenge? Why do we have a challenge? Well, if you look at these, there are a couple things that are challenging us right now from a fiscal perspective. And I want to help you to understand those and talk about some strategies that we have for moving those. One of the fiscal challenges that we have is that that pie on the right is a little bigger than the pie on the left. But it's something we know. You know, we experience this and we handle it every single spring semester. Long about April or May, I bet everyone in here knows what's going to happen. We're going to get a call. We need to slow some spending down. We might talk about freezing a little bit. But why are we doing that? Well, we're doing it because our budgets are aspirational. We're hoping that the revenues that we're pulling are going to drive that whole budget. It doesn't always happen. One way to fix that is to increase revenues. But I want to talk about some other ways first. And I'll tell you why when I'm done talking about that. When you look historically over the past several years, we are we are budgeting 5 to 10% more than our revenues are coming in. We've handled it. You've handled it. But we've handled it in a way that has been reactionary at the end of the year. You know you know what those reactions are, and you know how we've handled those. What we're wanting to do in discussions with Edwin after we've carved out that financial situation, what we think is appropriate to do is to address that issue from the beginning of the year. So what we're going to do is we are going to pull back on auxiliary and operational spending by 5%. Now, take that in for a second. But I want you to remember that more than 5% of your budget was never spent at the end of the year anyway, because of the reactive measures that we had to take. What this is going to allow us to do by taking a more proactive approach, we are going to be able to put the decision making in the hands of the budget managers where it belongs. If we know we are going to spend only 95% of that budget, I need to let you spend it appropriately from the beginning of the year. Does everybody understand that it's just a change of mindset? We know that at some point in the year, we are going to have to back up on those numbers. We're going to back up on those numbers from the very beginning. Now, I want to make it very clear. We're not cutting any salaries. We're not cutting salaries. This is not going to affect professorships. This is not going to affect foundation funds. It's going to be operating expenditures that have not been allocated and auxiliary expenditures that have not been allocated. Everybody okay on that? It's one of our strategies. We're going to talk a lot deeper about this as the semester goes on. We really need 10%, I'll be honest with you. but we've decided we're going to do 5%, and then we're going to work with you throughout the semester, throughout the year, to look at some other strategies. We have some ideas. We want to hear your ideas, but we're going to get there. We're going to pull these numbers together. Because you told us, you've been telling us, that fiscal stability is one of the most critical priorities we have on this campus. And it is. I want to stop and say for a moment, there's no one to blame for where we are. It's almost predictable. Almost any organization, any company, doesn't even have to be an academic, that moves at the pace we've been moving, we're going to outpace our resources. And that's exactly what has happened. I said before, it's a course adjustment. It's an adjustment in the course that we've plotted on that ship. We are not, and I want to make this very clear, we are not in a crisis situation. We have a challenge, and it's manageable. And it's manageable because of the people in this room. The second thing we need to focus on are processes and efficient processes. And we are going to move on those. There's a couple reasons that we need to move on process efficiencies. One of those is if I'm going to turn to a budget manager and I'm going to restrict the amount of funds that are available to you, when you need to expend those funds, it's urgent. And I have to provide a process that enables you to expend those funds more efficiently. So it's critical that we do that. We can't have fiscal stability and not have process efficiency. The other reason that we need it is if you look back to how we got to the challenges we have. I said a minute ago, there are no one's to blame. There's a reason that we kind of outran our shoes. But another thing that's happened on our campus is that because of inefficient processes, we've developed behaviors. We've developed workarounds. Everyone in here has. I've done it myself. And when a lot of people have workarounds, we create a culture. And it's a culture that drives the fiscal instability challenge that we're having to wrestle with right now. So we can fix the fiscal stability with some simple, manageable strategies. They have to be deliberate, and we have to start now. We can fix those problems. But if we don't fix processes at the same time, we're going to find ourselves right back in the same boat we're in about 3 or 4 years down the road. So we're going to be hitting both of those issues a lot. There are a lot of other priorities that we have, but these are going to have to be the places where we begin. We'll focus primarily from the administrative perspective on those 2 areas. Until we address these matters, we will never be in a position as an institution to address what impacts each of you in this room at a very human level. If we get this job done, we can begin to address your specific priorities. You've told us what those priorities are. It's on us to put the university in a position to be able to address those priorities head on. We have to take this opportunity at this time of transition to get our house in order. We understand our destination, but we need to get our course plotted properly. We know what the first steps are, and we need to commit. We covered a lot. It's heavy. We went deep, but we're going to go deeper. But I know, and I will say publicly, I know we didn't get to every question or topic that you raised. That's why this honest conversation can't end today. Early this fall, September, we'll host a community conversation that'll give us a chance to go even deeper into the issues that matter most to you. What I've heard from you in your questions, in your comments, and in our conversations is that this university is comprised of people who care deeply. People who care deeply about our mission, care deeply about our students, and care deeply about each other. Our human capital is our greatest asset, and our shared commitment is our greatest strength. The months ahead will bring change, but it's also going to bring possibility. Guided by our strategic plan and its principles, we have a strong foundation, a clear sense of who we are, and the creativity and the determination about where we go next. 2 weeks ago, when I was asked to take this position by the system, until it's 3 weeks, I guess now, I called a lot of people for advice. If you know me, when I'm in a situation, I like to hear from a whole lot of people, and I like to listen to what they have to say. So I made a lot of phone calls. Not one person told me to run. But that's because they know how I feel about this place. But one person in all those conversations gave me one simple bit of advice. I had hoped to hear a whole lot of pages of advice. He gave me this one piece of advice. He said, with everything going on, just take care of our school. Just take care of our school. I've rested on that advice for a couple of weeks now, because when I listen to that, I hear two things. Whatever course we plot, whatever we do, we have to do it our way. We have to do it with compassion. Take care. And that compassion has to be directed at the people who make this university our university. We're going to take care of our university. I like to return to that image of our university as a great vessel on a sea of possibilities. The wind is still at our backs. Our compass is still true. And in this time of transition, we're merely adjusting our course. Make sure we arrive where we intend to go, but arrive safely in a manner that takes care of every single person on our ship. So let's move forward together. Let's move forward with optimism, with purpose, and with confidence in what we can accomplish as the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. This is our university, our moment, and it's our future, and we will build that together. Thank you all. Have a wonderful fall semester.